Well, hello again for another open mic Monday. Thanks for swinging by. I hope you're well. Hi, Ollie. Nice to see you. Hi, Dave. Good to see you, bud. Hey, we got the website live, Dave. We did it, mate. How you feeling? I'm feeling good. Although, to be honest, Dave, I was working on that website last night in a chippy because we still had issues, but I finally got there. Hey, Steph. Hey, everybody that I haven't seen yet who've just popped up on the feed. Great to see you guys. Can I scroll down? I can. Hey, Jen. Great to see you. Hey, Steve, Amanda. Hi, Stuart. Sauda. Great to see you, Sauda. Always nice to see you online. Hi. So today we're looking at, once again, we're looking at communication. And today, Talia's popped on. Hey, Tal. Love what you're doing at the minute with those creations. Those are cool. Pop your name of your Instagram into the chat feed here. They're really cool creations. Rach. Hi, Rach. Man, it's been a long time, Rach. I hope you're doing well. Don't even know where you live anymore. You're probably in lockdown. But it's really nice to see you online. Nada, welcome, bro. Another Rachel. Hi, Rach, how you doing? Tracy, good to see you. Sam. Okay. So I want to talk about the power of your pause. Okay. Oh, Steph, you signed up to the mail list. What a legend. As if you didn't see enough of me. On their website that I've got a mailing list, and if you sign up to the mail list where you just get whenever you upload a blog post or whenever I've got something for you to see, you'll get an email. But if you do, you get this free 14-week course that I've done called 60-Second Speaker, and there's like 14 little 60-second videos about how to be a better speaker in 60 seconds or less. So it's free. So cheeky plug there. Well done, Steph. Thanks. Happy website day. Thank you, Rach. Okay, so confession time. Hannah, my bestie, my wife, says that when I'm nervous, especially on Insta Live, because I'm nervous, I do this with my nose, I touch my nose. Okay, so an aim today for me is to not touch my nose. There's a little something that you have to do as a communicator all the time. Tweak. So if you see me touch my nose, just tell me. Stop touching your nose, because stop being nervous. All right, that's what I do. Anyway, my eye. It was the eye, yeah, that's it. Okay, I want to talk about the power of your pause. But first, I've got two questions I just want to answer for the guys online. First one is, how do you engage everyone of all ages? So in your speech, your presentation, how do you do that? How do you engage people of all different ages, whether they're well old or really young? So I've got three-step thing, okay, that you can use to make sure you are engaging every single person, whether they're 50 or 15. First one is acknowledge who's in the room. Even better than that, mock who's in the room. Now, you can only do this if you're a certain type of person, but I like to take the mick a lot with whether I'm on people online. You might have noticed it when you've been watching me or listening to me. And what I'm doing is I'm not mocking people, I'm mocking or taking the mick of groups of people, because people just love to laugh at each other. So take a mick of the old people, take a mick of the young people, and that'll help because it puts you in the right context too. You don't know everything. Even if you're 50, you don't know everything. So it's good to be lighthearted with it. The second thing is choose a story everyone can relate to. So I often use stories of my kids, because everybody has been a kid, a child. Everyone sees children do stupid things all the time, or they're a parent. And so by choosing a story about my kids, it's highly relatable to everybody. So you got to choose, using examples like once you were stood in the rain. Well, everybody stood in the rain at one time in their life. So choose a story that everyone can relate to. And the last thing is make your challenge achievable by all. So it can't be so specific, like the call to action at the end of your presentation or whatever shouldn't be, right, everybody, let's all do TikTok dances. Because it's not going to work. In fact, if I do a TikTok dance, it's going to be the government's going to pull it down because it's just going to be offensive. It's got to be achievable. So you've got to make sure that whatever you're asking people to do, anyone can do it. And make that challenge wide but deep. So a way to measure whether it's achievable for all is making sure it has width so everyone can do it, but also make it deep so it's tangible, it's real, it does something significant. So an example of that would be tomorrow I want you to tell someone exactly what they mean to you in a positive way. So that's wide, right? Anyone can do that, but it's deep, it's tangible, it's specific, and that is the best kind of challenge. Okay, so those are 3 things. How do you engage everyone of all ages? Acknowledge who's in the room, choose stories everyone can relate to, and make your challenge achievable. Hope that helps you, dude, who's watching right now. And the other question I got is, how do you communicate well without copying people that are good? My word. I think the honest answer is you only really know what kind of communicator you are until you know what you're not. I think we need to understand the kind of people we're not. So in a way, we need to copy people in order to understand what we are, what works, what doesn't work. So you know, if I'm copying someone, like if I want to speak, you know, like Boris Johnson. Now, if I want to say, hey everybody, stay at home. No, don't stay at home. Go to the park, but don't play at the park. Walk past it with a friend, but don't go with a friend. If I want to speak like Boris, you know it's not going to work because A, I'm from Wigan, and B, I actually have a greater sense of what I'm doing with my life than Boris does at the minute. But it's okay to use some of Boris's techniques in order to figure out, is that me or is that not me? So I might use staccato like he uses, where I choose a few words and then carry on with a sentence. You know, that isn't me. But you might want to use that as a way to make sure you're not leaving anything out and you're being more intentional with your words. So the quick answer to that is, and the short answer is, how do you communicate well without copying people? I think it's okay to copy people when you're searching for your own style. I think that's normal and I think it's good. And the truth is, everyone does it. Lee Evans will still probably do it, who's a comedian. Boris is certainly doing it. And that's how you grow, when you know what you're not. Hopefully those are good questions. Listen, just send me questions anytime. You can email me now. I've got an email and it's ben@bentarbuck.com. So you can email ben@bentarbuck.com. Email me anytime or just DM me here, message me on Instagram. I'll get it. I'll try and answer you that day. It might be the afternoon or the evening. If it's cool, if it's good, if it's applicable, if it's appropriate, I'll share it on an Open Mic Monday. So thank you for sending those in. In the last sort of 10 minutes of our time together, I want to talk to you about the pause, the power of your pause. This is something that was a big revelation to me because I never left any silence in when I was talking. I didn't. Oh, I touched my nose then as I was doing this presentation and I said I wouldn't. But no one put it on the chat. You need to tell me when I'm doing it because sometimes I'm not aware. One simple call to action. I want you to pause more. Pause more. Pause more in your presentation, in your talks. I want you to create more silence when you're speaking. And I keep looking down here because I'm just looking at my notes. So there was a time where I hated silence, absolutely hated it, and I would just literally fill it with words, just talk, because that's what I thought my job was to do, was to talk. But actually, as a communicator, your job is not to talk, it's to help people think. So don't fill the air with words. Have you ever been in that room where that person's doing that presentation or that talk or whatever, and they just look so anxious and they're talking so fast? Like, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, and I just the weather's looking great today. Just thank you to this person. I want to show you this slide. Oh, look at this data. Oh, sexy data. Oh, look at this. And you got handouts. Everything's okay. And I was listening to this person. I think it was at a wedding once, and they were doing this speech. And obviously they'd not done a lot of public speaking before, and they were doing a good job as a best man speech, but they were just terrified. And as they were going through it, and everyone's with them saying, yeah, good job, I was getting more anxious. It was infectious. infectious. Like, the more they were getting irate and the more they were getting pent up, I was getting pent. Listen, people catch you. People catch how you are. It's an infectious disease. So when you're on the platform, chill, relax on your call. Just breathe deep, breathe in and out, stop, pause. That's infectious. When you're chilled, the room's going to be chilled. So I want you to create more pauses and silences. So there's 3 reasons why you rarely pause, okay? So there's 3 reasons why you never pause. Number 1, you aren't aware of your pace. So you just probably, I'm not sure I know at what pace I'm going at here. So you're just ignorant of it, which we all are at times. Number 2 is you're insecure and silence makes you anxious. That you don't like silence. You don't like quiet in the room because you feel like people are going to be looking at you and that makes you clam up. I'll talk about that in a minute. And number 3, you're filling your content too densely. There's too much to say in the time you've got, in which case you need to strip it back. In the future, I'll talk about how I am absolutely brutal and savage right up until the point I do a presentation or lead a meeting or I'm on the platform. I am brutal when it comes to cutting content. So you're not aware of your pace, you're insecure, or it's too densely packed. Now for me, the killer one was the second one, and I still am massively insecure, but especially when you're in front of people, it's very, very exposing, especially when you're delivering something that is authentic. So I would often fill that time with jokes, which, at times was funny, but just became really inappropriate. You shouldn't tell jokes at a funeral unless it's directly linked to what's going on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there is a time to laugh and a time to weep, And I wasn't using humour in the correct way. Now I use humour as a weapon. Like, I weaponize my humour, my sense of humour, in order to bring challenge and creativity and spontaneity. But way back when, I just used to fill the air because I was insecure. This is what Charles Spurgeon said, who's one of my favourite church leader figures of all time, led one of the greatest churches in British history, the London Tabernacle. And he was called the Prince of Preachers, not by himself. He's not like a Donald Trump. I'm just the best. I'm the, Prince of Preachers. Not like that. Other people called him that. And this is what he said. And you might recognize a very famous saying that you and I use from time to time, but he's the one that coined it. Charles Spurgeon said this: know how to pause. Know how to pause. Make a point of interjecting a rousing parentheses of quietude. I'm not sure what that means. But the last bit is great. Speech is silver, but silence is golden. Oh my word. Speech is silver, silence is golden when hearers are inattentive. Do you fill the air with words? Are you comfortable in silence? Do you leave people enough space to process your point? I am telling you now, if you use a pause in what you're saying, it is going to take everything to another level. Let me ask you a question. When you're talking with someone and you create a moment of silence, you create a pause, what happens? Or what's happening in that silence? Have a think about it. When you create a moment of silence, when you create a chance for people to pause, what's going on? Well, a misunderstanding is this: it doesn't get quiet. In fact, the noise just gets louder, except it's in people's minds, it's not verbally. You see, when I created silence then, and I asked you a question, the traffic in your mind just got a bit faster, a bit louder, because I'm allowing you time for you to think and reflect. So silence is actually a bit of a dichotomy, because I think that when you do create that silence, people are thinking, people are processing. That's why you've got to use your point really well. It's a misunderstanding that when you create silence, everything goes quiet. If anything, things get louder, and your job then after that pause is to rein people back in to what you're saying. Now, last 2 points, okay? And then I'm done. I think I've got 3 or 4 minutes left together. So what I would say is this: a pause is only as good as its purpose. Many a time you'll see speakers who create a pause but there's no purpose. So what do I mean by that? Well, a purposeless pause is someone who is quiet because they forget the notes. Is someone who isn't confident and is tripping over themselves. Or someone who's distracted or loses track of where they are. People pick up on purposeless pauses. Oh my word, because you do it too. When someone isn't on point, isn't effective, when they're creating silence without a purpose, people see that and they choose either to lean in or they choose to disengage because they're like, well, this person doesn't know, she doesn't know what she's talking about, so why should I listen? Or he's clearly not convicted enough on this, so I don't think I can buy into the level I need to. So if you are going to pause, it needs to have a specific purpose. Now, in a minute, I'm going to tell you the 3, as I've reflected on this. I'm sure there's more, but I use pauses in 3 ways that I'm going to tell you about in just a minute. But a great illustration of having a pause with a purpose you can find in the book of Psalms. So when you look in the book of Psalms, 150 phenomenal poems, spoken words and songs, you'll see in a few of them, depending on the writer, you'll see this word called Selah. S-E-L-A-H, Selah. What the hell is a Selah? There is no British word. There is no modern language equivalent word for Selah because it's an ancient principle of pausing. Now, we don't know for sure what it is. Some people think that it's an interlude, like a musical interlude without like an instrumental, where there's no singing but there's some kind of music going on. Other people literally think it was silence because some of these stuff was like more like Gregorian chant at times rather than musical instruments. So whether you believe that or not is irrelevant to me. The definition that I define Selah as is a pause with a purpose. Now usually what happens is, and if you watch the flow of a psalm, the writer will bring a big statement. There'll be a crescendo of a point, there'll be of a verse leading up to one point, and then it'll be boom, Selah. The world rejoices at your name, Selah. Pause, reflection, think, adoption, reconciliation. There's this time where the writers and the songsters notice that we can fill the air, but the moment we release people from having to sing where they can think and process, that's when it drops, that's when it sinks. Ultimate use of a pause right there. You'll find it in the book of Psalms. Okay, great. Nearly at the end, guys. 3 ways I use a pause. And you might notice this already if you've ever seen me do anything on stage. Number 1, I use a pause when I want people to stay engaged in my main point. So what you'll notice I'll do is one of my talks, the structure, I talked about it last Monday, petal points, where I have one point that is the main point of the talk. It's the title of the talk and I revisit it throughout the time that I'm delivering something, and all my points come back like a flower shape. They go round and come back to the point. And what I'll often do is during that talk, once it's drummed into people, I will say that line and then leave the last word of silence where I'll get them to finish it, but not verbally. I don't want them to hear, I want them to do it in the mind. So the power of in your mind, you're like, pause. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring you back, and I'm creating silence for you to fill that. And because you're filling it, you're using your mind to refocus in on my main point, and it's reinforcing it and making it more memorable. So that's when I tend to use it. Number 1, when I want people to stay engaged, and I usually do that through finishing a sentence. The second way I use it is an immediate shift of pace. So if I need a talk, a presentation, whatever, to shift pace dramatically, I'll use a pause. and I'll do that so it halts the room. So it's almost like boom, 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 and I'll stop, because what people are running after me, and then suddenly I stop and they're like, oh, really interesting what you just said. Yeah, okay, yeah. And then I'll carry on, because what you're doing is you're creating a moment where people are like, boom, that's happened, that's done. Here's the final thing. Okay, breathe. Okay, we're going into something new, and it's a really good way of creating a bit of a flow. And the third thing is for reflection, pure reflection. Using it as a chance for people to think, what did this mean to me? First, do I agree with this? Why do I disagree with it? Then thinking, what does this mean? What does this mean? What's the one thing, and what you'll tend to find these days in something that I do, I'll often create a moment of reflection, where I'll ask a question, we'll have 30 seconds to a minute just thinking, and it's just silence. Someone's playing something in the background to keep some atmosphere. Sometimes it's better just to be quiet, like if I'm on a staff Zoom a couple of weeks ago, it was just quiet, and that gives people time to think, acknowledge. So those are 3 ways I tend to use a pause these days. I'm sure there's more, but there's 3 things I thought about before. Okay, final thing is that the best pauses are pregnant pauses. So just before we go, the best pauses are pregnant. Make your pauses pregnant. What do I mean? You need to create a pause that is filled with something, filled with anticipation, filled with advent, filled with something that is like, oh, this has purpose to it. Make it pregnant, like something's about to happen, something's about to go down. So the way I tend to do that is ask a question. So I fill that pause, I create a purpose by giving it a question, but I also make it pregnant, because what I want people to do is answer it at an individual level. I want people to see it, I want people to answer it, because the questions that we ask, only people can answer for themselves anyway. So I'll often deliver a question that I want them to have a conversation with either the Holy Spirit or themselves to come to terms with, but make it pregnant, anticipatory. So there we go. I hope that was really helpful. There's such power in pauses. There's great power in silence. And what I want you to do is just right now, we're going to pause. We're just going to create a moment and we're going to pause, which might be odd because you're listening to me right now, but we're just going to create a moment of a little bit of silence, and I just want you to think in your mind, how can I create more silence in my speaking? That's the question I want you to ask. How can I create more silence in my speaking? 15 seconds, try and answer that in your own mind. How do I create more silence in my speaking? Let's reflect. Hopefully that was helpful to you. I hope this served you well. I wish you grace and peace in whatever you're doing. I'm so glad you're here. And do it. Create more silence. Create more pauses in what you're saying. And you'll find that the efficiency, the depth, the space, it will just take it to new levels. Thanks again for joining in. Don't forget, I have a website that you can go to with some free stuff on it. And I'd love for your feedback. Join the mailing list. You'll find that on bentarbock.com. Very straightforward, very simple. Join my mailing list. Do whatever you want. As long as it's kind of legal, I don't care. Do whatever you want. But I'd love to hear from you. Keep sending your questions in and I'll answer them as quick as I can, or email me at ben@bentarbock.com. Appreciate you all. Thanks for all the love, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Thanks very much.